Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla News episode 121. We have hit a very important tipping point in the EV transition. And the Chinese EV makers are growing like weed. And the first ever asteroid mining company is taking its first steps. And Jim Farley had some big things to say about the EV transition. And GM's Bolt might be in a bit of trouble. And the EV market share this year is looking to be much bigger than most people are expecting. All this and much more on today's episode. Let's dive right in.
Let's put our living stereo stylus in this groove.
We have hit a very important tipping point in the EV transition. The numbers of consumers looking to buy an electric vehicles has hit 52% according to the latest EY Mobility Consumer Index MCI, as I also mentioned in my last video. This is the first time the number has exceeded 50% and is representing a rise of 22 percentage points in just 2 years. And this is the global average. In countries like Italy, the number was 73%, and in China, the biggest car market in the world, that last year stood for 50% of all EVs sold in the world, well, China is at 69% of people will choose an EV next time they will buy a car. I actually think this is quite a big deal. We are always talking about the demand, right? But 52% already today wants to buy an EV. But last year the plug-in market share was 8.3%. So the demand is 52 and the supply is 8. This is why I say every EV maker will sell every EV they make. And the EV market will rise as fast as the market is able to produce them. And Tesla and the Chinese are not kidding around. The legacy automakers don't want to go too fast because this will dig into their cash cow, the ICE car. So they have been holding back, and this will probably end up being a very short-term strategy for profits here and now, but will end up killing many of the car companies because now they all want to accelerate, but have not made the deals with battery manufacturing and mining companies to grow this fast, and it takes time. But Tesla and many of the Chinese companies like BYD have, and we can see the demand is here. Demand is actually outpacing supply by 6-1. And this is before we really hit the price parity with the ICE car. How do you think this will look in 2 to 3 years' time when the EVs will be as cheap or cheaper as an ICE car? Last, that will never happen. Well, in China, it's almost already there. The EVs is only about 10% more expensive than the ICE car equivalent in China right now, but you will save a lot of money on service and maintenance, so the EV is practically already the cheapest choice in China, but is still missing 10% on the sticker price. And we already have a $10,000 EV in China, and all of this will come to all the other markets as well in only a couple of years. Then what will the demand for EVs be? Yes, I know I see comments from people who would never buy an EV. Sure, there will always be some edge cases and some people who will not do the rational thing. But we are already at 52% today, my friends. And remember, the old legacy automakers like Ford and GM, Nissan, Volkswagen only aims for about 50% EVs in 2030, including plug-ins. And someone like Toyota, even less, and Kia, that is making great EVs and have done for years, aims for less than 50% BEVs in 2030. And the demand for 50% EVs are already here today. Does legacy automakers not see this? And many countries here in Europe will ban new ICE sales in 2030. So who is going to buy these polluting ICE cars in 2030? Definitely not the majority. They already want EVs today. They just can't get them. And I have talked about it many times, but now Bloomberg New Energy Finance is also saying that the ICE sales peaked in 2017 and is now permanently in a decline. Yes, exactly. Yes, the old guys are in very serious trouble. How so many people can still think the old guys will just magically become the leader in the EV race when all the numbers show us something else is just beyond me. And I'm supposed to be the deluded fanboy, right? Sure, but the numbers don't lie. Demand is already higher than the supply the legacy automakers will produce in 2030. You can bet all your money on that China and Tesla will grab all that demand the old boys seems to be dropping on the street. The Chinese EV makers are growing like weeds, and I think the market share this year, the EV market share, is going to be much higher than people expect. BYD are making some big moves according to media outlet The Paper. BYD should be in talks to buy 6 African lithium mines, enough to cover demand for the next decade. Some of the lithium mines will start shipping next month and are expected to be available for use in BYD's batteries in the 3rd quarter of this year, according to local media. Yep, BYD is not messing around, and last week I reported on BYD opening up the pre-orders of their new EV, the Seal. And the Seal got 22,637 orders in 7 hours of pre-sales. And BYD did just deliver over 100,000 new energy vehicles for the 3rd month in a row. 114,943 units, a new record, where 53,349 were BEVs and over 60,000 still stupid hybrids. But at least they are not making any pure ICE cars anymore. And the growth BYD saw in May was more than 250% compared to last year. Yes, China's EV market in general is just taking off. We had a problematic April with the crazy lockdown in China, but other than that, just look at all of these Chinese automakers, how they are just shooting up with 50%, 80%, 100%, 125%, 250% in growth. And new ones that weren't even making cars in the first half of last year. It looks to me like China will be doubling their EV production this year. So China will probably produce as many, if not more, EVs in 2022 as were sold in all of 2021 globally. Yeah, I think we will see the EV market share more than doubling this year globally, depending on how big the market in general will be. But I think in general it will be down, but EVs up, as we have seen so far this year. But if we say 65 million new car sales will be sold, we could easily see EV market share globally of 20%. Also being giving a nice little push of the really high gas prices right now. But 20%, that would only be 13 million EVs. That would not even be doubling the EV car sales, so maybe it will be closer to 22, 23%, maybe even 25% market share. That would be amazing. If we already this year could get close to a quarter of the whole new car market being electric. And if everybody is trying to double their EV production next year as well, and if they can get the materials, well, maybe we could see 50% EV market share already in 2023 or very close to it. And I would like to talk a little bit about the charging infrastructure because it's heating up. NIO just added 37 superchargers and 20 destination chargers and added 34 battery swap stations in only May, bringing the total to 949 swap stations that they have put up. They are not kidding around and are even rumored to be planning to build a plant in Hungary to make swap stations. I still don't think the swap station long term will be a good solution. We all know the batteries are the limiting factor, or actually the materials that needs to be digged up from the ground are the limiting factor, and NIO wants to use even more batteries because they need to have batteries in every car, of course, but they also need enough batteries at the swap station to be able to make about 300 swaps a day. That is the max capacity of the swap stations. Of course, they can charge the old batteries up at the site, but they need a lot. lot of batteries there on site no matter what, which also adds to the cost of making the stations, and they are far more complicated than just a supercharger station, and we need a lot of them because they can only swap a little over 300 batteries a day. We are talking about millions of swap stations to support the whole car industry, and it is not something others can use right now. Like Tesla is opening up their big charging networks to others slowly, and here in Europe it's pretty easy because the plug is the same for all EVs, but it is only neo cars that can use these swap stations. And as long as no one else is buying NIO's technology and building cars with NIO's technology, the benefits for the EV revolution to happen as fast as possible is very limited. And even though it sounds pretty impressive with 34 swap stations in just May, remember, firstly, only one car at a time can make the swap, and it takes between 5 to 10 minutes. So if there are many cars, it could end up taking a very long time. But a charging station like some of the big ones that Tesla has built in Shanghai can take 50 or 70 cars at once. And secondly, Tesla put up 525 superchargers, not including destination chargers like in hotels that are even more simple to put up, but only superchargers, 525, and that is only in May. And yes, I counted them. They are all available on Tesla Charging on Twitter, and Tesla is ramping up as we speak. And Drew Bagolino was also asked in an interview he just did about why Tesla doesn't make swap station. And he should know he is the man that is in charge of the charging network, and Tesla has tried to make swap stations before, but because customers didn't even want to use them, and it was simply just not a financially good option. But let's hear it from Drew himself.
We sort of looked at kind of like if you imagine charging as a standalone business, like with profit and loss lines and OPEX and CAPEX to make it go, that's what we evaluated when evaluating like swaps versus charging and infrastructure. And kind of like when you have the swaps, you still need the charging infrastructure, but now you need the swapping infrastructure too, and the storage infrastructure for the swap batteries, and all of the like mechanisms to do those two other things. So it's just on a pure P&L basis to like provide the same function to people didn't seem to make sense. And you know, I'm responsible for Tesla Supercharging actually, and we run it like a business, and it has its own P&L, and it needs to be profitable in its own right. And we look at all the costs, and you want to do the absolute bare minimum at the site to make the charging possible. And swapping is not the absolute bare minimum really at all. And if you look at some of our videos, like the pinned tweet on Tesla charging on Twitter, and I'm not a Twitter person, I'm just telling you. If you look at the pinned tweet on Tesla charging, there's a video of us building a supercharging station, like I don't know how many stall site in Florida. You know, it's like 4 days of work, and it's all wired up, and the last 4 days are like landscaping to make it look nice. That is what you can do with charging that you can't do with swapping. It's never going to be like that.
And Jim Farley had some big things to say about the EV transition. We got to go to non-negotiated prices. We got to go 100% online. There is no inventory at dealership. It goes directly to the customers, and 100 remote pickup and delivery. So Ford is trying to copy Tesla's model, so that would be a very good move. But it's going to be very interesting to see how the dealers will react to this. But as Jim said, Tesla saves about $2,000 on selling directly to customers compared to Ford selling through a dealership. And on top of that, Jim said that Ford's model is messed up. Ford pays about $600 to $700 in advertising on every car they sell. So right there, without having talked about building the car yet, Ford spends about $2,600 or $2,700 more per car than Tesla, just because of dealerships and advertising, according to Jim. And as he also said, the battery pack in the Mark E cost Ford about $18,000 to build right now. So Ford still has a very long way to go to get an EV to market that cost around $25,000. But Farley continued talking about his forecast about the dramatic industry changes, including we are going to see a very large consolidation and big change. The Chinese will become more important. China EV makers, if you look at the $25,000 build and material for the EV in China is probably the best in the world, and I think they are incredibly undervalued. And Farley thinks that the big price war is coming for the $25,000 EV. But he also said that the Chinese haven't shown any interest in exporting to other than Norway. Well, both Xpeng, NIO, BYD are all expanded to markets in Europe and Australia, so that's not entirely true. But he continues, there's a shakeout coming, and I feel like the shakeout is going to favor many of the Chinese new players. Old automakers absolutely will get consolidated. There will be big winners. Some people will transition, some won't. Many of the smaller players cannot afford to make this transition. True, and some of the big players too. As the cost goes up, the bigger you are, especially winding down the ICE business is going to be even harder. The bigger the volume of the engines are you have to wind down, and no one of the big boys has the cash on hand they need to make this transition. So just because you are big don't mean that it will be easier, but yes, big winners and big losers for sure, especially because many still don't see the ICE industry collapsing as fast as it probably will. And Jim also said, when the second quarter profit of 2021 came out from Tesla, it totally changed my world. And to the people that don't remember this, it was when Tesla went from having a couple of $100 million in net income to over $1 billion in net income for the first time. Jim continued, it was an epiphany. It was like an angel song. It was a confirmation that electric vehicles can make big money, Farley said. The electric vehicle maker established market dominance early. The magic of Tesla, Farley said, is because they were capital constrained. They didn't have the money. They did things that we were too lazy to do. Yes, when Jim saw Tesla was earning about $10,000 per car they sold and had an average automotive gross margin that is almost twice as high as Ford's, Jim suddenly got the memo. Tesla was now earning more money selling an EV than Ford did selling an ICE car. And Jim also said that Ford spends about $24,000 more on making the Mach-E than the Ford Edge ICE car, their big SUV. So yes, Ford still has a very long way to go to actually start earning some real money on EVs, and especially anywhere near what Tesla does. But Tesla has shown it is possible, but now Ford has to try to copy everything Tesla has done to get to where Tesla is today, and that is not going to be easy. As Jim said, they were too lazy. And he also said before, they lack the talent and are in competition with their own ICE car business. Yeah, quite the mountain Ford has to climb here, but at least Jim sees the mountain and understands they have to climb it. GM and Mary Embarrassing still thinks they are just standing on the top of the mountain, already a winner. But even though Tesla has been raising their prices through the last year, GM is now lowering the price of the Bolt. GM is lowering the price of their new model year version of the Bolt EV and EUV by $5,900 and $6,300 respectively, despite electric vehicle cost increasing due to materials and part shortages, and demand for EVs are through the roof. This could be a bad sign for the Bolt, and even though GM spokesperson said this change reflects our ongoing desire to make sure the Bolt EV are competitive in the marketplace. As we said, affordability has always been a priority for these vehicles. Sure, but I think all the bad press the Bolt has got through the last year because of the fire risk and recalls, I don't think many people are going to want to buy the Bolt. It kind of seemed like a gamble when there are so many other options available now. I think they are lowering their prices because there are not many that wants the Bolt EV anymore. It has long been outdated. But we will see by the end of the year how many GM will be able to produce. Funny how this little EV, the Bolt, was also called a Tesla killer, and trouble was coming for Tesla, as Insider wrote in their article back in March 2017. We just drove the all-electric Chevy Bolt and Tesla is officially in trouble. And good old Mr. BS Mark B. Spiegel even tweeted all the way back in 2017 that people were waiting to compare it to the Tesla Model 3 and then they will find out the Bolt is a better car. they will buy it. Well, Mark, that quote aged as well as an ice cream in the sun. In 2021, the Bolt's 5th year of production, the Bolt still sold less than 25,000 units, and the Model 3 sold over 500,000 units. Not even any contest here. And that is despite the Tesla Model 3 being a much more expensive car. As James pointed out on Twitter, with the lowering of the price, the Bolt is now over $20,000 cheaper than the Tesla Model 3 starting price. But let's see how many GM will be able to crank out this year. When production only started back up again in April, I would be surprised if they sell more Bolts globally in 2022 than the $20,000 more expensive Tesla Model 3 sold in only Q1 in only California. 21,506 units. That's the goal, GM. I know you can do it. And let's get our weekly update about Tesla's Giga Factories. That means handing it over to Brian from My Tesla Weekend. Take it away, Brian.
Hey, Lars. Well, in Shanghai, we've seen workers actually returning. Construction workers can be seen on site. There's no actual progress to show, but the good news is we're underway, and it is essentially day one. So we'll keep an eye on that. At the north end of Berlin, where we were looking at the parking lot, well, it now has lighting that's been put in. On the roof of the main building, the solar panels are expanding, and the array that we saw facing east is likely to be mirrored facing west as well. In the south end of the building, parking lot area, the trees have been put in and other landscaping, and to the east of that, more parking has been expanded and graded, and it's underway. The 4680 building is finally showing some meaningful progress from the outside. Most of the walls are up, and interior work has begun in earnest. It's finally looking pretty good in terms of getting done by the end of the year. The retention ponds to the east and northeast are also getting a lot of work, so that when the rains return in the fall, the groundwater mitigation strategy should be well in place. In Texas, we're seeing a lot of rework in the parking. In some cases, it's asphalt being torn up to replace with concrete. In others, well, it's just rework. The cathode building seems to be on hold. The rumor is that there have been permitting issues. The main parking lot has had quite a few improvements, both in terms of drainage and the addition of power lines and lighting and whatnot. The solar panels are looking real nice. The A is filling out nicely, and this is just going great. The VOC retention pond regrade work is continuing. We're not sure what's going on here, but it's getting a lot of work. And across the highway, we're seeing activity. Some grading to the east of the established foundation area we thought we would see a few months back, but also just stuff kind of being shuffled around. Maybe something's going on over here. I don't know. What do you think? Back to you, Lars.
Thank you so much for the update, Brian. See you next week. And let's squeeze in the last short news topics into this news show. Yes, it's time for the Tesla Shorts. And SpaceX is making trips to orbit so cheap that most companies will be able to get stuff to orbit. And this is making so many changes to what is now possible. The company Asteroid Forge aims to become the first ever asteroid mining company. And they will of course be flying to space on SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. And even though they were just founded here in January of 2022, they do expect to have the first asteroid mining technology on board a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket by January 2023. And one of the founders is former SpaceX employee who have served as a duty chief engineer, so they should know what they're doing. So that is just very exciting to see the first step of mining the solar system taking place right now. So cool. And Hallmark tweeted about the article in Fortune. Deutsche Bank raided by authorities over ESG greenwashing claims. We found evidence that could support allegations of prospectus fraud. Elon replied, I have yet to see an ESG list that isn't fraudulent. And we have some stats on the F-150 Lightning towing a trailer. According to Nick, his F-150 Lightning had 85 miles, 137 kilometers of range at the start of his test. After he added the trailer and inputted its weight, height and length, the truck's onboard computer automatically calculated the new range estimate and put it at 54 miles, 87 kilometers, indicating about 37% loss. That estimate was a little optimistic, as Nick said he actually experienced about 50% range loss course, and that was in ideal conditions when towing a trailer on completely flat roads in temperatures about 86 Fahrenheit, 30 degrees. But still a cool feature that the pickup truck is actually calculating the new range estimates when the trailer is attached. I made a whole video about the cool upcoming little camper, the Cyberlander, and John Gibbs, better known as Dr. Know-It-All, was actually out checking it out not long ago, and I will leave a link to that video down below. But Tesla Cybertruck has attracted yet another crazy third-party modification from company Space Campers, which developed a Vitch-style camper perfect for the great outdoors. Looking cool. And the 9,000-ton Giga casting I was reporting on last week, Elon did confirm on Twitter it is for the Cybertruck. Oh yeah. And there has been a lot of talk about Elon's leaked email where he said that employees can work from home when they are at the factory for a minimum of 40 hours. But I think Facade summed it up perfectly, why it is so important for Tesla employees to be at the factory and not sit at home. And Facade is a former Tesla employee, so he should know. Folks who think that Elon's decision to remove remote work will piss off employees don't understand Tesla's culture. Workers will be significantly net happy because the hardship from not having folks on site to solve the problem will be gone. Culture will strengthen, not weaken. Yes, and remember, Tesla is changing the world, and no one has ever done that on a 40-hour week. And speaking of working at Tesla, Tesla scored 100 of 100 for the 7th year in a row for LGBTQ equality. This index is a national benchmark tool on corporate policies, practice, and benefits patented to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer employees. Yep, people want to work for Tesla no matter who you are. All are in for the mission to transition the world to sustainable energy for all of us. As Elon wrote, personal choices are your own and are respected. And here you can see the effect of the lockdown in China. Tesla sales in Europe are going up and then becomes very flat. But we know 4 ships are heading to Europe as we speak, and we just saw a 5th one being loaded, so we should soon start see the momentum to pick up again. But still, compared to the competition in Europe, no contest. And Geely, the car company that also owns Volvo and Polestar, launched the first 9 satellites for service, including autonomous driving. These first satellites are part of a planned constellation, the Geely Future Mobility Constellation, which will consist of 240 satellites. First phase of 72 satellites is expected to be in orbit by 2025, and the second phase will consist of 168 satellites according to Geely. And Jan from Tesla Fix, who reported on the news show last week, did an interview with me that he uploaded this week. We had a great talk about all things Tesla. I will leave a link to the interview down below. And Wuling, which make the Mini EV, will have its first global EV model, Air EV, debuted in Indonesia. The Air EV will be launched globally in the second half of this year and will accelerate the expansion of Wuling's new energy vehicles in overseas markets. Going to be very interesting to see how this little shoebox of a car does overseas, if they can get as much traction as they have in China. And Panasonic ships Tesla's 4680 cell samples as it gears for mass production in hopefully March 2023. Very exciting. And another double-decker supercharger has been installed in Giga Berlin in the northwest near the Autobahn exit. While at this point it's not known precisely how the process is organized, there are a few speculations that indicate that Tesla is trying to optimize logistics. The bottom line is the cars can be charged, for example, while being loaded onto a trailer parked next to the supercharger. This way, while all cars are loaded, most of them will receive an additional charge, and customers who are expected the delivery will be able to drive their car home or to a supercharger without worrying about the range. New innovation from Tesla to make everything faster. And DeLorean, yes, the guys that made the famous car they used in Back to the Future.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
They are coming with an EV. So that is cool, and the concept looks pretty cool, right? But we don't know the price yet, but they have given us some stats. They of course have a 0 to 88 miles per hour.
88 miles per hour!
In 4.35 seconds. All estimates, of course, but it will be very close to the performance of a Tesla Model 3 performance. The new DeLorean vehicle is going to be called the Alpha 5 and will do a 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.99 seconds, so 3 seconds. Top speed 155 miles per hour, range is 300 plus miles, and it includes a 100 plus kilowatt hour batteries, and it has a drag coefficient of 0.23. So all very close to the Tesla Model 3 performance that only has a 75 kilowatt hour battery, but very nice specs. And it is a DeLorean, right? It is electric and it looks just awesome. So it's going to be very cool to see this one out in the real world, but we still don't know when that will be. They write on their website that we will advise all newsletter registered subscribers in late summer 2022 on how to join this journey to ownership. So hopefully not too far out in the future.
Into the future!
And speaking of the future, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, because you must go watch his videos he has done walking around the starbase talking with Elon Musk. If that doesn't get you excited about the future, I don't know what will, because what they are doing is just insane. As Elon said in Tim's last video, at SpaceX we specialize in turning impossible into late. And before we end off with a bit of fun, I just want to make a quick shout out to my newest patrons and members of this YouTube channel. Randy Kirk, Stephen Gualitas, Michael Gentry, Karen Powell, Bob Boyle. And my thank you for watching members Cedric Babb, Tom Hayden, and Rolf Hall. Thank you so much for all your support. I am doing this all by myself, but you guys are all the producers of this new show. Thank you. And a big and special thanks to Supporter of the Week. And this week's winner is Marcus Lindauer, something like that. Marcus, thank you so much for all your support. He has been a thank you for watching member for over 20 months. Thank you so much, Marcus. Please contact me on this email down below so I can get your address so I can send you your free t-shirt or mug of your choice. Thank you. And let's end off with a bit of fun. A follower of mine shared a video of another YouTuber. You might know him. He has a little channel with 96 million users. It is, of course, Mr. Beast. He usually gives free stuffs away, and here he gave a guy the chance to win a Lamborghini. But he went for the Tesla.
This is Mitch. And Mitch, we have cars lined up for days. Cut to the drone shot. So here's the deal. 2 football fields away is a 6-figure Lamborghini, okay? So basically we have a lot of really expensive cars lined up. The further away they are, the more expensive the car is. And I have a stopwatch here. You have exactly 1 minute to get a car and drive it across this finish line. And if you do, you get to keep the car. Okay, he did it. He's gone. The time is starting. They're off in the truck.
Holy cow!
Oh my God!
Oh my God! He's going so fast!
He's going for the Lambo! Never mind, he's going for the Tesla! 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 I swear you just won a brand new Tesla!
No! You got it! You're lying!
Oh my God!
Are you serious?
That is your Tesla.
This GPS is bigger than my TV at home.
Oh.
Now that is brand power. That is all we have time for in this news show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help this video out a lot. And if you did like it, maybe you want to consider hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, so you don't miss out on future videos just like this one. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support, and if you want to support the channel even more, remember you can, for as little as $1, become a patron of this channel and get your shout out on this show. You can also become a member of the YouTube channel to get a shout out and some extra perks. Hit the members button to find out more. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter. I tweet all the news as it comes out and more. And check out the merch store to get some merchandise and support the show. Now it's also possible to support the show without buying anything, becoming a member or a patron. There is a link to a donation options in the show notes. And also as simple as hitting the super like button. But going forward, I will be making more videos for patrons and members only. And I will give my YouTube members and patrons early access to my videos whenever possible and make my videos ads free for members and patrons only. So don't miss out. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.